Have you ever stayed in a relationship longer than you should have, clinging to the hope that love, just love, could fix everything? Even when it came at the cost of your self-respect? Even when humiliation and self-doubt quietly crept into your soul like a slow poison? This story isn't just about a man and a woman. It's about something far more universal. The lifelong struggle between love and dignity, between emotional longing and self-worth. It's about the pain we bury and the truths we often ignore. Especially as we age, we become more vulnerable to the quiet, aching need to be seen, to be valued, sometimes at any cost. As we grow older, society doesn't always offer the comfort it once promised. The roles we played for decades, provider, lover, protector, begin to blur. We're tempted to prove our relevance, our worth, even if it means sacrificing joy for validation. But what if I told you something important? That love should never cost you your self-respect. This video will take you through the raw and emotional journey of an elderly man who did everything right in love and still found himself diminished, broken. Until one day, he chose something radical. He chose himself. By the end of this video, you won't just witness a story, you'll feel a truth that might change how you see your own life, because the lesson is simple, but powerful. Sometimes, the most courageous act of love is walking away. Sometimes, solitude isn't loneliness, it's freedom. So stay with me. This story is for you if you've ever questioned your worth, if you've ever loved so deeply that you forgot to love yourself. And if you're not subscribed yet, I truly recommend hitting that subscribe button and turning on notifications so you don't miss out on more stories like this. Stories that heal, inspire, and remind you of your value. If you believe this kind of message matters, give this video a like, share it with someone who needs it, and leave a comment below. Comment 1 if you're here with me right now. Now, let's begin. In the beginning, everything felt like a dream come true, as if fate had finally handed him a second chance at a life he thought had long passed him by. She was radiant, a burst of youth and energy that illuminated his world. Her compliments landed like rays of sunlight, warming parts of his soul that had gone cold from years of silent self-doubt. She called him strong, capable, wise. Her words were so perfectly chosen, so well-timed. It was as if she knew the deepest longings he held inside. She told him his age didn't make him old, it made him magnetic, that his years brought a depth and dignity younger men couldn't touch. And for the first time in a long time, he began to believe it. She ignited in him a version of himself he thought had died years ago. A man who was not just relevant but irresistible. Every glance she gave him, every brush of her fingers, every playful smile, it all seemed charged with something real, something passionate. He bent over backward to keep her happy, not out of obligation, out of a desperate hope to hold on to what felt like magic. He bent over backward to keep her happy, not out of obligation, but out of a quiet, almost sacred desire to keep her gaze on him, to remain the man who made her smile. He treated her like a queen, not just with gifts, but with devotion, attention, and the kind of reverence that only comes from someone who has known what it feels like to be invisible for too long. She wasn't just a woman to him. She was youth, reawakened, a force that made his bones feel less tired, his days feel less predictable, and his future feel less like a countdown and more like a second chance. And yet, tiny cracks began to form. At first, they were so subtle he barely noticed them, like soft whispers in a loud room, easy to ignore, easy to excuse. She made suggestions, small ones, dressed in the fabric of kindness. "You really should take better care of yourself," she said one day. Her tone? Light. But there was something else beneath it. A sharpness, a faint undercurrent of judgment. "A man your age shouldn't be struggling with things like this." He laughed it off at first. brushing it away with a chuckle and a shrug. But these weren't one-time remarks. They kept coming, slowly, repeatedly, disguised as concern, but each one carried the sting of disapproval. What began as suggestions evolved into criticisms. There was a shift in her tone, less admiration, more condescension. A subtle reminder in every sentence that she was younger, she was more vibrant, and that maybe, just maybe, he was lucky to have her, and he felt it. The slow erosion of something he had always clung to, his dignity. Her words lingered. They echoed. They wrapped around his thoughts late at night like cold air beneath warm sheets. She began saying things like, "You're too old for this. I need more. You're not enough." Each phrase felt like a quiet betrayal. And yet, he told himself, this is just a phase. It'll pass. She loves me. I just need to be more patient. But the tipping point came in the most intimate part of their connection. She criticized his performance in bed, not kindly, not constructively, but in a way that tore at the very core of his masculinity. "You're slow," she said one night, with a carelessness that sliced through him. Predictable. "I need more than this." She compared him to younger men, something he could never compete with, no matter how much he cared, no matter how deeply he loved. And it wasn't just his body she dismissed. It was his soul, his worth, his manhood. And yet in moments following the cruelty, she'd toss out a few crumbs of validation. "But no one loves me the way you do. Your tenderness is rare." These rare reassurances, they kept him hooked, like a thirsty man in a desert reaching for drops of rain. But those drops were laced with mockery. She'd laugh at the way he tried, at his efforts to please, at the way he still believed that love was earned through kindness and sacrifice, and he couldn't see the manipulation for what it was. He only saw one thing, a chance to win her heart completely, so he gave more, and lost more. The more he loved, the less he was respected. If you're still with me, and these words resonate with something inside you, comment 1 below. Let me know I'm not alone in telling this truth. He endured. He told himself love was about sacrifice, that all relationships go through phases, that if he stayed strong, she'd see his worth. But each day, he slipped a little further away from the man he once was. He started to look at himself through her eyes, not with pride, but with quiet shame. An aging man trying to stay relevant. A man clinging to the ghost of youth. And deep inside, a voice began to whisper, "This isn't love. This is slow destruction." The tragedy of his story lies in its familiarity. How many of us have stayed too long, clinging to a dream that's turned into a cage? How often do we let ourselves be chipped away, believing our love can fix someone who keeps breaking us? He wasn't staying because he was weak. He was staying because he believed in love, because he believed that if he gave just a little more, she'd finally see him, choose him, cherish him, but she never did. Then came the breaking point. It wasn't loud. It didn't happen in the middle of a fight. It came in the silence that followed yet another night of rejection. He found himself alone in his room, the walls around, him familiar but now foreign. They had heard his laughter once. Now they echoed with stillness. He sat at the edge of his bed, heart heavy, his mind replaying everything. The criticism, the mockery, the moments where he gave his soul and got silence in return. That night, for the first time in years, he looked in the mirror. And what he saw wasn't a man past his prime, wasn't someone unworthy or unloved. He saw a man who had survived, a man whose face told a story, not of failure, but of endurance. Every wrinkle, every gray hair, a line written by time, by experience, by love given without condition. And in that moment of stillness, something inside him shifted. He realized that he had been shrinking himself for far too long, trying to squeeze his entire life, his entire soul, into a version that might please her. And in doing so, he had forgotten the truth. Self-love isn't arrogance. It's survival, and self-respect is non-negotiable. The next day, he didn't raise his voice. He didn't plead. He didn't list out everything he had done or sacrificed. Instead, he sat her down with calm eyes and steady hands. And for the first time, he spoke not from a place of fear, but from strength. "I can't do this anymore," he told her. "I can't keep giving to someone who only sees my age as a flaw. I can't keep shrinking to fit into a version of love that leaves me feeling small." He told her the truth. That love, real love, should build, not break. That he had loved her deeply, and maybe always would, but he couldn't stay in something that made him doubt his own worth. She laughed. She rolled her eyes. She brushed it off. "You're being dramatic," she said. "You're overthinking it." But this time he didn't flinch, because this time he didn't need her to validate his pain. He stood up. Not out of anger, but out of clarity. Out of the realization that sometimes the most powerful thing a person can say is, "Enough." And when he walked out of that house, he didn't just leave a relationship. He walked back into himself. At first, the silence was loud. The nights were long. He missed her. Or rather, he missed the idea of her, the hope, the fantasy. But as the days passed, the silence became his sanctuary. It wasn't loneliness, it was solitude. And in that solitude, he began to remember who he was. If you're still watching, and this moment resonates with you, please comment 2 below. Let me know you're walking this journey with me. In the days that followed, he reconnected with old friends. He opened books he hadn't touched in years. He picked up forgotten hobbies, gardening, painting, music. Simple things that filled the silence with meaning. He didn't just rediscover interests, he rediscovered himself. He stood in front of that same mirror one morning and saw someone different. A man not defined by age or broken love, but by resilience, by the quiet strength of choosing dignity over desperation. He stood in front of that same mirror one morning and saw someone different. Not the man she tried to shrink. Not the man he tried to become to earn her love, but the man he truly was. A man who had weathered storms. A man whose worth wasn't tied to anyone's approval, but rooted in something deeper. His reflection was no longer someone to pity. It was someone to celebrate. Every wrinkle a badge of endurance. Every gray strand a thread in the rich tapestry of a life that had been tested and survived. As the months passed, his world slowly began to bloom again. Not in loud ways, but in quiet, soul-nourishing ways. He traveled to places he had only dreamed of before. Not to escape, but to explore. To meet new people. To breathe in new air. To realize how wide the world still was. Even at 70. He found joy in the little things. The warmth of the morning, sun through his window. The crackle of vinyl records that brought back youthful memories. The sound of his own laughter, not forced, but genuine. And he realized something profound. His worth had never left. It had only been waiting for him to remember it. He learned that love, true love, starts with self-love. That we set the tone for how others treat us by how we treat ourselves. And once he began to honor his own dignity, the world responded in kind. He no longer sought approval. He no longer chased affection, because he no longer needed anyone to remind him that he was enough. And this was the greatest shift of all. He stopped living to be loved, and started living to be whole. He began to see aging not as a decline, but as an awakening. He saw how society had conditioned him to believe that youth was everything. That if you were older, you had to settle. Be grateful, be quiet, but now, he knew better. His age wasn't a burden. It was a testament to how far he'd come. It was a reminder that he had earned the right to live on his own terms. He came to this truth: those who love you will never ask you to become less, and those who ask you to dim your light don't deserve to stand in its glow. He no longer feared solitude. In fact, he embraced it, because solitude gave him something that the relationship never could: peace. Not the temporary kind that comes from pleasing others, but the deep, lasting kind that comes from being true to yourself. If this moment hits home, please comment 3 below to let me know you're still here and still walking this path with me. He began to write again, not to anyone else, just to himself. He wrote letters to the man he used to be, letters to the boy he once was, letters that forgave him for staying too long, for giving too much, and he smiled because he finally understood. Every scar was a lesson, every mistake a step toward wisdom. He came to see that walking away from her wasn't the end of his love story. It was the beginning of the greatest one, the one he wrote with himself. And through that journey, he no longer feared being alone, because in that quiet, sacred space, he found himself again. He realized aging isn't about fading. It's about rising. It's about choosing dignity over desperation, self-respect over approval, peace over performance. His story, though deeply personal, is one that echoes in the lives of many. It is a story of pain, yes, but more importantly, a story of rebirth. A man in his 70s who proved that it is never too late to choose yourself. From his journey, we draw 5 powerful truths that may just change how you see love, aging, and yourself. The illusion of youth can be dangerous. It's easy to be drawn to someone who makes you feel young again. Their energy, their excitement, it's like a drug. But youth, without empathy or respect, is just a pretty mask hiding emotional immaturity. He thought her affection was love, but in truth, it was infatuation tied to his effort, not his essence. Many older individuals fall into the trap of believing that to stay desirable, they must compete with younger people. But your value doesn't diminish with time. It deepens, youth fades, wisdom stays. Love should never cost you. Your self-respect, too many people confuse sacrifice with love. He tolerated the insults, the judgments, the comparison to younger men, believing that enduring it all was proof of his devotion. But real love doesn't demand your self-erasure. It sees you, celebrates you, honors you. If someone makes you feel less than, it's not your responsibility to win them over. It's your cue to walk away. Self-love is not optional. It's survival. He rediscovered that self-love is the foundation for all love. Not the spa day, surface-level kind, but the kind that says, I am enough as I am. I don't need to be younger, faster, stronger, or more exciting to be worthy. Self-love is what allowed him to see through manipulation. It's what gave him the strength to leave. And it's what carried him into peace. Without it, he would have remained trapped in someone else's narrative, forever doubting his worth. Integrity is ageless. Your dignity is not something to trade for companionship. He learned that being alone and whole was better than being adored and diminished. True courage isn't just surviving heartbreak. It's standing up and saying, I won't let your opinions rewrite who I am. He learned that even at 70, a man can set boundaries, demand respect, and live on his own terms. Age does not weaken your integrity. It refines it. Solitude is not emptiness. It's rebirth. He feared being alone until he realized that solitude is a sacred space. In solitude, he reconnected with forgotten passions. He redefined his identity. He found peace that no partner had ever given him. He saw that the quiet moments, once filled with longing, now brimmed with clarity. Solitude wasn't a void. It was a mirror, one that reflected not loss, but possibility. He didn't walk away from love. He walked toward self-truth. If you've stayed with this video until now, please comment 4 below to let me know this story has reached you, inspired you, or reflected something in your own life. This story is not just a tale, it's a mirror, it's a message. It's a reminder that your value isn't up for negotiation. You don't need to become younger to be loved. You don't need to beg to be respected. You don't need to prove your worth to someone who refuses to see it. If you are in your later years and you're navigating love, loneliness, or identity, let this be your reminder. You are still becoming. You are still enough. And the most important love story is the one you have with yourself. Thank you for being part of this journey. If this message touched you, please like the video, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And in the comments, share one lesson from this story that you'll carry forward in your own life, because your story might just help someone else find their way home.